Get your signs up yet? swearing in. Good evening. Welcome to the Harrison, Ohio City Council meeting, February 6, 2024. If you'd rise and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you please remain standing, I'd like to invite Pastor Jim Metcalf from New Beginnings Worship to the podium for our invocation.
Let's pray. Lord, we humbly come before you today, thanking you for your grace, your mercy that you've extended to us. We thank you for your blessings that you've given us, and for your protection and the answered prayers. We ask that you forgive us for our sins as a nation and a people, and draw us into your presence, and turn our hearts to you. We ask today that you bless and comfort our nation and our communities during the difficult times that we've had and those that we're facing. We ask that you give us wisdom and grace to endure the coming challenges. We ask today that you protect our police officers, our firemen, and our first responders and their families. Protect those that are servicemen that serve us at home and abroad, the men and women. Provide for their families through your abundance and comfort them in their times of need. We ask tonight that you would bless this council and our community leaders. Give them wisdom to guide and to bless all who live within our city and the community. Bless our leaders and their families. Bless our neighbors, that we would all live together in peace. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Metcalf. Roll call.
Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mr. Abrams.
Here.
Mr. Samuels.
Here.
Mr. Akra.
Here.
Mr. Maines.
Here.
Mrs. Wilson. Here.
Approve council meeting minutes, January 16, 24.
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Abrams.
Yay.
Mr. Samuels.
Yay.
Mr. Akra.
Yay.
Mr. Maines.
Yay.
Mrs. Wilson. Yay. Mr. Wilson.
Yay. We will move into our guest and visitor section. So I'd like to invite the Legion up to the podium. Mayor, I think you got to walk that way.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, it's my privilege and honor to donate to the Harrison Mayor's Community Fund from the American Legion, Yeager Benson Post 199. Our donation for January in the amount of $5,238.15.
If I could have the Boy Scout chairman and a couple of the Boy Scouts come up here, or all of them if they want, I don't care. We want to thank you for what you do. The Legion wants to thank you for what you do for our community and helping these kids and everything. I know there's expenses you all get, and on behalf of the American Legion, we would like to donate to you tonight $500. Who gets this? Oh, wait. his hand went first. Put the money in your hand.
Hold it up so you can see it.
I know they're here tonight to learn how city council works. Well, I sure hope it's a good night.
Okay, the City of Harrison Fire Department went through a process of hiring a new employee. I'd like to invite Chief Hersong to the podium for an introduction.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. As the mayor stated, we have a couple vacancies. One of those is now full and complete. We're here tonight to have the mayor swear in our newest member, Katie Ravenna. Katie, her fire EMS training at Cincinnati State, is currently enrolled in the Cincinnati Fire Department paramedic program. She also has a Bachelor of Arts in Communication from Wake Forest, where she played Division I soccer. Right? Pretty impressive. So, Mayor, if you would. Absolutely. Thank you.
Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Katie Ravenna,
Solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States and the state of Ohio,
of the United States and the state of Ohio,
and that I will
and that I will
enforce the laws and ordinances
enforce the laws and ordinances
of the City of Harrison,
of the city of Harrison,
state of Ohio,
state of Ohio,
and the United States of America,
and the United States of America,
and that I will,
and that I will,
in all respects,
in all respects,
observe the provisions of the Charter
observe the provisions of the Charter
and ordinances of the City of Harrison,
and ordinances of the city of Harrison,
and that I will faithfully and completely
and that I will faithfully and completely
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
on which I'm about to enter.
in which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Next, I'd like to invite Mike Ringel to the podium with Harrison Kiwanis.
So I have with me Andy Cobes as well. We're both members of the Harrison Kiwanis Club. I've been a member for over 20 years. And we sent you all some photographs of a concept that we're trying to basically put forth to you to get your blessing, if you will. We are wanting to do a decorative fountain that would also serve as kind of a splash park to celebrate our 100th anniversary, which will be in 2026. So it's something that if we build this, we want to make sure that Harrison is willing to then take on the maintenance of the project, and then also is willing to, basically, the water would be not recirculated, but it would go right through. So it's much less expensive if the water is basically disposed of right away rather than filtered and tried to recirculate it. But we're wanting to try to be, leave some kind of a legacy for our Kiwanis Club, in the city of Harrison. Our next step is basically to, if council is in agreement that they like the concept, would be to then get a full-scale set of drawings made, and then we have to fundraise. We have a significant savings that we're putting towards this, but we can't do it all. And we're gonna have to go around to the community, try to, seek out help from the business partners to make this happen. We were told that it's gonna be about $500,000, hopefully that would be on the upper end, so.
So obviously, the Harrison Kiwanis has been a very important part of our community for 100 years, coming up on 100 years. I had an initial conversation along with the previous mayor back in December, I believe. It's kind of blurred together, so but we did have an initial conversation that I was involved in, and they presented some of their ideas. It sounds like they narrowed it down. The area that they are potentially looking at is over by the fire department, in the park area in front of the fire department, that they're potentially looking at putting this up and doing it. So
Yeah, and we would be taking out the existing tree that's there with the idea that you could bring in a Christmas tree every December, and that could be decorated, rather than having the permanent tree that's there now, but bring something in. And then the flagpole that's there would get shifted to the right and redone as well.
this does not impact the Fireman's Memorial. That's on the other side of the entryway of the fire department, so that would stay intact with no impact. So what questions do you have?
I do have a couple questions. One question I have is where that flagpole sits. That was actually put there by the Harrison Memorial Association many years ago. And you are planning to move it?
So the idea would be it would likely get shifted to the right, but still be in the same vicinity. But it would be shifted to the right to allow more of a plaza type area there. But, do we have a firm exact location for it? No. But it
Would
kind of,
still be there, is
absolutely,
my question.
absolutely.
Yes.
But
Because it's been there for many, many years.
right, and it needs to be rebuilt. It's kind of starting to fall into disrepair. So we're going to obviously put it back, but in better shape than we found it.
Myself, I don't like the location you've selected. It's part of our historic trail of Morgan's Raiders. In fact, I have a problem going to be bringing up something else tonight to commemorate that. The city of Harrison has 100 acres of parkland. I'm not against what you're talking about, other than possibly what's we're going to be on the hook for financially, but it's going to be right in the business district. It's going to affect parking, which is limited in the area. It could possibly affect foot traffic in the area for the businesses, which has been a constant struggle to get people down there. And I just wonder if having a splash park next to Harrison Avenue, which is one of the busier streets in town, is the best location.
So I wouldn't call it well, first off, I would like to say, I don't know if you have all been, I showed pictures of Lawrenceburg's park. And then also downtown Oxford has a similar venue as well. And all of them have it in their downtown. And the idea was to drive people downtown. And we are at least envisioning it to be more than just a fountain that kids can play in. We're envisioning it to be tables where people can go and sit and eat. And I don't think it's going to affect parking, because we're not going to be encroaching on any of the parking spaces. We're not taking anything away from the existing parking lot that's right there next to the fire department. It's just strictly, we're gonna be redoing that grassy area that is in front of the fire department, well, left side of the fire department, I should say.
I do think that it was, the intention is to create a more family-friendly environment in the downtown district area, to not only draw adults for shopping and everything during the day, but to create that family environment. If there's concerns around the specific spot, I'm sure the Kiwanis is more than welcome to entertain any other ideas that may be available. So, just keep that in mind. But they do want to try to focus on that downtown district area and, create another draw.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
I mean, our idea was to try to make downtown better.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, that was our goal, and to try to make it obviously something more aesthetic.
Do you really feel that it's a big enough area to do what you want to do? I just don't think it, I mean, I'm trying to envision it in my mind, and maybe I would have to go down there and walk it off, but it's not very big there.
It's surprisingly bigger than what you initially think. Because when we've sent pictures to the firm that did the design in Lawrenceburg, and they felt like that space is more than sufficient to, pull off what we're trying to do. We had looked at some other parcels. We had, talked to the rec commission. They were wanting to do something, maybe here at the community center. But our idea was to try to do something for more, with downtown. And obviously downtown, and there's limited areas.
If you remove the tree, it increases the amount of property you're doing, because the tree takes up quite a bit.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that would still, so, it's gonna be a fountain in the summer, but, in the winter, it could still serve, other purposes too, just like, with the parade, that's where the focus was. I'm just thinking, look, when you guys have the downtown, when the streets closed off and you have the downtown festivals and so forth, that would be another family spot to add.
So are you saying that's the only spot you're willing to look at?
I'm open to suggestions. What?
Because I wouldn't think so much of what you're building is where the water's gonna go.
Well, it's gonna be self-contained. I mean, the water goes right in to the fountains themselves. I mean, it literally drains right down into them. It doesn't run off. So literally.
Where does it come from?
Pardon?
Where does the water come from?
There's a water pump system
Right,
that's
it's
set
gonna
up.
be, that's all gonna be underground.
So where does it go on a windy day?
Well, I mean, you're gonna have drift. Yeah, you're right.
The drift is going to go right onto the sidewalk. Our wind comes out of the southwest 90% of the time, which is going to be blowing it right on the sidewalk in the street. That's my concern.
Well, that's something that we can continue to talk about.
I don't think it's gonna be to that level of size that you're gonna have that kind of a huge, drift. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I don't think this is gonna be, more than 6 feet in the air.
Mike, this is more, I'm sorry.
And then the other thing is, we're planning to, landscape around it. I mean, and I would like to get the garden club involved in it, have planters surrounding it on the outside if we can. And then, to the other concern, have some type of a border, whether it be just a fence that's more like just a drooping chain to kind of keep it contained, where people can't just run in and out of it.
And this is gonna be more like a squirt fountain than where it just shoots water up and.
That would be.
Yeah,
that
it's
would be
not
the
like a
extent.
constant stream of
Right.
water.
About 6 feet. It's not gonna have any features that you see in some
Yeah.
splash parks where it's got buckets dumping water.
Right.
Anything like that. That would not be possible.
I think probably a good thing to do would be have them go through the building and lands and find a place that would be best suited, that wouldn't interfere with business parking, people walking down the street. I don't know how far it's gonna spray, but, I know if you're walking down the street going shopping from one block to the next, if there's water blowing on the sidewalk, there's not gonna be anyone walking there.
But it's something council's willing to entertain at this point.
I would be willing to entertain it.
And-
Not to mention the tree you're talking about moving is our Christmas tree we light up and have one of our biggest events downtown.
Doc,
when we first talked about this, and we were in the office, and granted my eyes were dilated, so you had me in a chair, and I couldn't run away from you. But I thought it was a great idea, and in the conversation that we had and talking about moving it down there, you said to me, which I liked, hey, we want people to come in and see the city and see this.
Right.
And I know we're gonna be moving a tree and the flagpole, and it's not like you're taking the flagpole away. I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good spot. You guys have done your research. And I've looked at all the pictures, and at council, I sent it to you guys also. I'd say, look at the pictures. They're pretty in-depth. They're just not just sketches. So,
Yeah.
you got them on your emails. Sherry sent them out. So, I know that when we talked, and not just bringing people downtown, but you were like, hey, we want this to be the key feature down there, and,
Right.
and it'll look great.
Right.
So, I'm in support, and I like your idea.
I don't think anybody's against it. I think it's a great idea. It's just that I think I would have to go down there and visualize it more where you're talking about, because I had really no idea where exactly you were talking about putting it.
Well, and I was hoping the pictures, you know, that's why, you know, we tried to send that around. I wanted everybody to see it in advance to kind of, you know, get a sense for that. But it's a bigger parcel than you initially think. I wish I had brought the dimensions. But as my memory serves, it's over 80 feet wide.
I can believe that. I'm looking at it, yeah.
No, I think it sounds like a great idea. I assume the fire chief has been consulted on this?
I did talk to the fire chief
Okay.
on the way today. He didn't see any problems with it, but
And it was brought up, you know, Mayor Nyer had brought this in front of the fire department, you know, a long time ago. Because we've been looking at this, you know, even with Shannon for almost, you know, 10 months or so.
and not to try to pin the fire chief down, but I did have a conversation with him just today, and I actually sent him the pictures also, so he would get a look at it, and he didn't object. But I know when we had talked that this was the initial phase, and before you guys wanted to.
Well, we wanted to make sure council was on board before we go start spending money
Right.
on a design.
Right.
And then we're out, if, you know, council says no, and we're out, you know, significant.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have that kind of a budget.
And have you talked to the district? I mean, are you part of the district, or have you talked to the district?
Neither. We have not talked to the district. We wanted, obviously, it's on
understand.
city property. We
I got
wanted to
you.
get city, you know,
It'd be
but
nice
we
to
can
get their
certainly
feed-
bring
it'd be
it
nice to
to.
get their feedback to see how
Right.
they react also. That's all. I like the idea.
Right.
I don't mind the idea, I'm just questioning the location. I had a business down there for 8 years, I know what an impact 1 or 2 parking spaces can do to a business.
Have we talked to the city's insurance company, and do we know what the maintenance cost would be on something like this?
Great question. I don't have a figure on that. That's something, yeah.
Once it's built, I mean, obviously, water will be supplied. I don't think there has to be any chemicals added, because it's, the water
Right.
shoots up, drains away.
Basically
into
goes
the-
away in the sewer.
into the sanitary sewer system, right? So, you'd have water, obviously, but you're going to have ongoing
Yeah, it's a
mechanical.
small fraction of the total water that runs
I
through
do
the
know
sewer
that the-
plant.
And it's not gonna run
water.
continuously.
Right.
So, you know, the way Lawrenceburg's runs is it goes off and on a schedule. But then if people are there, there's a button where they can activate it to run more regular.
But, you know, the insurance question is an interesting one,
Yeah.
because crazy enough, the motocross track is not an issue for our insurance policy. If we wanted to put in a dock at Willow Park, apparently that is, or at least what the former mayor had told me, so.
Kim, would you be able to contact the insurance company and just ask some questions around?
I mean, if it's an added cost, that's not a problem. You just need to know what it is,
Yes.
or at least finance would probably like to know.
I think
what
we
that
ought
is.
to talk to Great Parks too, because his name's Jack, I forget his last name. but
Jack Sutton.
Jack Sutton, one of the reasons they got rid of theirs was maintenance cost.
Well, that was the
Well,
circulating
I think
part.
that's where this is gonna be different, because a lot of the maintenance cost, in regards to The great parks was around the chlorination system,
Right, it
the
was a
padding,
recirculating park.
on the ground. And this is proposed as a different, this is probably much more of a fountain that, I don't know if anybody remembers going downtown Cincinnati during WBM fireworks, but we'd all go crawling in that fountain with 1,000 other kids. Well, this is kind of like a fountain that the kids can play in more than a splash pad.
Right.
And I encourage you all, to, if you have a chance, to run down to Lawrenceburg. Well, it's cold now, so it's not gonna be on, but.
Right. I mean, Lawrenceburg's attracts.
It's a big concrete
Yes.
pad that squirts water out after they hit the button, and families have a chance to sit around it. I think if you look at any downtown community across the country, water features are a part of a lot of successful downtown areas. And if you do have concerns around the specific plot, I encourage you to make recommendations to them, because they've been very open. They just would like to try to stay in that area. It sounds like there's a consensus for them to move forward, while there may be the one question around the specific spot. Obviously, there's a lot more that we would have to hash out, design and all that, but if the consensus is to allow them the opportunity to move forward,
And just to have an idea of a timeline, I mean, 100 years for us is in 2026.
yes.
So that's why we're trying to get this, moving along, because we know we're gonna have to fundraise.
Yes.
And, the first step though is to have a design that we can take and show everybody, this is what we're gonna be building. And we want everybody, to be on board with it too. So we just don't wanna be spending money to be spending money and then throwing away.
Yes. Well, it does sound like there is a consensus, a majority that would be in favor of it, while there's still a few questions, which would be expected. But, it
I
does
guess,
sound like there's a
can we
majority.
get, I don't know whether it would be possible, but can we get everybody, that's here on the council to at least, look at the plot and after, at least physically go down there and take a look at it, and then they can better, maybe visualize what's gonna, happen, and then, somehow, report back to you, Mayor, and then,
You guys want to take some time, visit the plot, and I encourage you to walk around down there, because, like I said, if there's another location that may be feasible in your mind, if it's one person, I may not recommend it, but if it's multiple individuals, I'm sure they would be willing to take a look at it. But I encourage you all to go down there, and then what we'll do is we'll get back to you and give you an update. I ask that everybody try to do it over the next couple of weeks, and then get back to me and let me know your thoughts.
And I think it'd be great if we got the district's opinion
Yeah,
before we make any decision also.
we can reach out to, Matt, would you mind reaching out to the district and gathering their thoughts on a water feature down by the fire department? We'll start with at the fire department for now, and to see what their thoughts are around it.
If I agree, I think it'll draw people down, and I don't see how they could be objectionable to it.
well, and I mean, the idea was, you've got all these new restaurants coming in, also have a place where you could sit down and eat outside. If we could have some permanent tables, or even some bench seating, that's the way Lawrenceburg does theirs. They have benches where people can kind of, sit.
They have a very good restaurant right next door to it. So,
Go out there and have breakfast from the bakery. Yep. And with the door down there also.
absolutely.
So I'm just gonna tell you right now, I drive by there every day. So.
Yes, I do too. That's why I like it.
Any other questions?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay,
Greatly
thank
appreciate
you.
it. I'd like to invite Beth Barham to the podium. Is Beth Barham present? Okay. Ms. Tony? Good evening. If you don't mind, please state your name and where you
Yeah. I'm gonna mess this computer up somehow. I guess not. So I'm Tony Malillo, and I live at 10432 Deer Trail Drive, which is in the township. And that is actually what I wanted to talk to you all about tonight. I have a question and a request. So, I always get nervous up here. I don't know why. So I feel like I am part of the Harrison community. I volunteer at the library with the kids. I decorate the library. I'm part of the garden club, and I plant the pots downtown. I go down with my clippers and I trim them. And, you know, I feel like I try to give back to the community and not just stand up here and complain. But it became clear when all this stuff with Oakland Hills started that I'm not part of the city. And we were told early on by the mayor at the time that if we wanted to, and I'm talking about front door now, that if we wanted to kind of slow down some of this big development, that we had to show that it wasn't just township members that wanted to do that, but that city residents cared about that. And that's why we started the petition, to do exactly that. And we got 1,000 signatures, at least 70% are from city members on 50 different streets. So it's not just one little pocket. It's a lot of people were saying that this is what they want. But we did that, again, because the mayor said you need to show that city residents care about this. And then, after 2 weeks ago, when you all approved Oakland Hills, which I understand, you know, that's basically a done deal now. But after that happened, Facebook just started exploding. And I can't believe 2 weeks later, even up to last night, there's still tons of comments on there about this. And 90% of them are negative. But I bring that up because as I'm just reading it, thinking about it, I know at least 4 of you all on council have been reading those as well, because I've seen you comment. And I'm reading them and I see one comment was from a council member, quote, "My concerns are for the city of Harrison, not township residents." And another person said, quote, "People in the township are trying to dictate what happens in Harrison." So the message being sent by council, intentionally or not, is that the township views don't matter. And frankly, I mean, not to be controversial, but in this case, it doesn't sound like the city residents' views matter. But the decisions that you all make directly influence the township. So this property, as you know, was in the township until it was annexed. And traffic is going to impact everyone. Mr. Hamstra said that due to this rapid growth, there's going to be a new school levy. Well, that impacts everyone financially. So I guess my serious question is, are township residents' views welcomed and considered by this council? Because the decisions you make do impact us all.
I will say that obviously the council members up here do make decisions that directly impact the city residents, but everything that we do involves consideration of Harrison Township, Whitewater Township, Crosby Township, because we're all part of all of it. You know, that's the biggest thing that I talked about for the past year as I'm out talking to people. We are one community, whether it's city or community or not, we're all one community. You're my community member just as much as anyone else that walks in here. And I don't care if you're in the farthest corner of Whitewater Township, it's all one community, because they come here to do their shopping, they go back home, they come here to do the district events, and then they go back home, and we provide all that for everybody, you know, and we want to continue to drive or provide those services so those individuals do come here, so they don't frequent Lawrenceburg, so they don't have to go downtown Cincinnati. And we continue to focus on those type of activities as we approach each new year. But at the end of the day, the tax-paying residents of the city of Harrison are going to drive a lot of it. Yeah, I have heard about the petition, but never once have I seen the petition. I didn't vote on it. I haven't voted on the Oakland Hills development once. You know, but Does that mean that we want to ignore the resident? No, we want to try to take all that stuff into account. The decisions were made to move forward with Oakland Hills. I know it's upset a lot of people, and we continue to answer questions around it, and we will continue to answer questions. You know, we as a body worked for 2 years to try to create the best development with the least impact that was most visually appealing, both through greenery as well as construction, and then it was voted on to move forward. But that doesn't mean that we don't want to listen to you. We do. We want to hear from you.
Okay, so maybe those comments were just misplaced on Facebook saying, I just don't want, we're not trying, the township people aren't trying to bully anyone. We all have the same goal.
Yes.
And all, so, okay, so to that point, then my question is, so throughout all this, I know that we've tried to say, here's questions or concerns that we have, and we've tried different ways. So we delivered some hard copy questions to Planning Commission. We emailed Planning Commission. We, gave some questions to council eventually. I know we sent some emails, and rarely did we get any response to any of that. And and so I'm thinking, so that maybe that wasn't the best way to go about it. Like, I know you all had working sessions. The Planning Commission had a working session. The council had a working session with Gradison. We requested a session early on, and that didn't happen. I guess at this point, I still have some outstanding questions, and we probably have 10 minor questions or suggestions that I think could make it better, or things that we need to be aware of. Is there a way that we can share those? I feel like if we come up here, we have our 3 minutes, we say something to you, you kind of look at us, and then we sit back down. Like, there's not really a conversation ever.
Well, I'd encourage you to go ahead and email me. If you have questions around something, please, always, everybody, always feel free to email me. All my information, my cell phone, that's in my pocket, is always available. The phone number is on the website. My email is on the website. Please feel free to email me any questions that you may have. I'll do my best. I've gone back and forth with community members in regards to the Oakland Hills development and everything else going on in the city. And I do. I encourage you to reach out to me. I'll do my best to respond as fast as possible. And I'll try to answer your questions in the most clear fashion that I can. The Oakland Hills development has been approved as presented. There's still a process that we continue to work through for finalizing some of the documents. But they really tried to listen in a lot of arenas. I can't promise you that I can change a lot in regards to that development, but I'm willing to listen to you and talk to you about it.
Okay, and some of it is really just more, have you thought about this? And, pointing some of those things out.
I think I'd like to answer your question. I didn't know how I was going to vote on this subdivision, but I did some research. My family's lived in Harrison since the 1850s, 1870s, both sides. The first thing I did was I read the first 100 years of council minutes from 1850 to 1950, just to see what disposition was on growth throughout the city through all those years. I was born in 59, so I skipped those 9 years. And most of it I remember because I was here. So I know what the disposition's been on subdivisions. And I looked at this subdivision of 238 houses, and I compared it to subdivisions we already have. We've got the Whitewater Meadows that has over 700 houses. We've got Ridgeview, which has, I believe, over 300 houses. There's 480 houses in Countryview. Hickory Flats has over 300. West Haven, I believe, has just over 300 or right below 300. Carolina Pines was the last subdivision in. I can't remember exactly. It might be 280. Is it 100? But I do know one thing.
Edgewood is in progress.
Edgewood, I wasn't involved with Edgewood. It's monstrous. It's huge. It's 480 some. It's about the same size as Countryview. But I can tell you from 1850 until this one, There has never been a subdivision anyone wanted, ever.
Have you got that much pushback that you did as you?
We got 1,000 names out of almost 13,000 people, many of which who lived in the township. Now, if you're in the township, you have to keep one thing in mind. We're in the township too. But the oath and I may have said this on there, my oath was to the citizens of Harrison.
Who have told you how they feel?
Some have told me how they feel.
Did you get a petition saying, build this?
I didn't need
Did
to
you
get a petition,
people-
'cause most of the people-
One person stand up to say, build this?
I looked at the names who signed the petition. I talked to the Gandys because I've known them. I've known Mary Beth most of my life. I talked to Ed Mingus, who was. I understand that. I saw the petition. I'll continue. I talked to Ed Mingus. Ed Mingus owns the farm next to the subdivision. I figure if anyone's going to have a strong opinion one way or another, it'd be Ed Mingus. He didn't seem to have any problem with it. You know, I've grown up with here. I know a lot of people in Harrison, and I talk to a lot of people in Harrison. My entire family is Harrison. And it's been as well received as any. I had the front door project come to my home. And a lot of the things they told me were inaccurate. They spoke of things like vinyl. There's no vinyl in it.
No, we know that. We never.
Were you in my house that day?
No, but.
I can only tell you what I heard. I'm not making any excuse. I'm telling you what was on the PowerPoint.
Oh,
And I saw the PowerPoint that you had, which showed a lot of vinyl houses. And that's not what's being built. Now, as I look at this thing, 25% of it's going to be green space. 11 of these homes are going to be near $700,000 range. That's going to push up property values for the houses around it. The way property values have been increasing, I used to work for the auditor's office. I know a little bit about a property appraisal. I was a real estate agent for years. I'm not any longer, which I know a lot of people on Facebook are saying this, that the reason I did this is because I'm an agent. Those houses will be up to $1 million soon, probably within 10 years. 39 of them are going to be in the $400,000 to $600,000 range. 116 of them are going to be in the $300,000 to $500,000 range. Those are all going to climb in value. Every 3 years, that's how appraisals are done in Hamilton County. They go out, they do a reappraisal every 3 years. It's a rare occasion that a property goes down. The only problem I had with this whole subdivision was the 77 townhomes. But I have been talking to some of my friends' elderly parents who simply can't find townhomes to move in without moving out of Harrison. One of them was a friend of mine's mom, one of my best friend's mom, who says she's been looking for 5 years. There's waiting list on the ones across the street from the old junior high. You can't get in there unless you know somebody's about to die and you can get on the waiting list. And those, everyone calls them the barrack style in Parks of Whitewater. There's a waiting list for them to rent them at $1,500 a month. So I didn't just blindly jump in this because I wanted this in. I researched this. And when this all was said and done, it came to one thing here. The Kerr family. They've been here since 1920. Their father died working his rear end off on that farm. Their brother died pulling out of who was a friend of mine, pulling out of their driveway one day. I mean, they've blood. It's probably as hard on them to sell this as it is for you to see it sold. Because when you've done something that long, you become one with that. And I know they are one with that land. I've talked to Ed. I know how he feels about his property. And it's not an easy decision. But there comes a time when you just can't stop people from doing with their property what they want to do when they want to sell it. Unless you buy it. And it was for sale for 10 years. All the people in Harrison Township could have banded together. They could have come up with the money and come up with it and stopped it. Now, I know that's a crazy thing. You know, I'm a Harrison guy. I live in a home my great-grandparents bought in 1915. I've been to Harrison forever. I was born just about 3 blocks from here. So it's not like I didn't care about Harrison when I did this. I looked at this and I think it's going to be a good development. It'll be better than some that have come in. It might not be as good as some, but I know the folks back in Land Hill had some problems with it. And I can understand their problem with it. But other than just tell them no, sooner or later we got to come up with a good reason.
So two quick things, just because you brought up. One, all the big developments that you listed, that is not, this shouldn't be built because of they were. It should not be built because all those were. I'm not saying you should never build here. I'm saying it's too fast and we need to slow down and get things in order first. But regardless, it's done.
You know,
And
I think.
as far as the KERS, I do.
Excuse me, I'd like to speak also if we
But
got
can I
time.
just say one thing about the KERS, because I don't know the KERS, but I drive by your barn and your land every day, and I remember the day you put your name and the date up there. And I thought, it was a beautiful day, and I thought, they're obviously very proud of this property and have a great name in Harrison. So I agree, and I feel like they got shafted, because when this was annexed, there should have been a work together, get a good developer in here and build something nice, so that they have a nice legacy to leave.
We didn't
So,
annex it.
nothing
It has to
personal
be
against the
annexed.
KERS.
I've been beat up on Facebook and Harrison Avenues more than anybody that sits at this table. No question about it. And that's great. You can do that. I'm a big boy. I can handle it.
Well, I didn't do
But
anything, but.
I didn't interrupt
Many
you when you
did.
talked.
Yeah,
I'd
but
appreciate if
I don't
could-
want you to think I
I'd
posted
appreciate
any
if I could speak
comments.
now. But the research I did was not quite as in-depth as Ray. But the complaints I heard when it first came up was police, firemen, utility, water and sewage, the streets, cookie cutter homes, schools, and Section 8. Well, I talked to the police chief and asked him flat out, and he's sitting right over there. I said, are we going to have any problem protecting this subdivision? His comment to me was, anytime you expand, obviously, it spreads your service a little bit. But no, we will have no problem servicing that subdivision. I talked to the fire chief, same question. The fire chief told me, West Road Fire Department will handle it, and we'll have no problem. He said, but I will tell you this, I'd much rather see that subdivision than a nursing home that was planned at one time. Because the nursing home would drain his resources a hell of a lot more than a subdivision. I talked to Jim Leslie with the utilities. He said he has no problem supplying the water and sewage. He said he's only concerned a little bit about the streets. We had Mark Gradison do another traffic study, and the traffic study said that we need a turn lane going left from New Haven Road to the townhouses, and a turn lane going right to the regular houses with Carolina Trace going straight up the hill. And they said that would help a lot. I talked to Duke Energy, because I've heard people say that our service out here sucks. I've heard all that. I'm sure you have too. Matter of fact, my granddaughter-in-law works in that department. And while we were in her vehicle, she said, Jerry, do you ever look up and see that thing on top of that pole? I said, no, honey, honestly, when I drive down this road, I don't look to the top of poles. She said, well, that's a $100,000 piece of equipment that we had to put up there. And we're going to be able to supply that new subdivision. And by supplying that new subdivision, we're going to improve the service all around it. So that kind of helped me out there. I talked to the schools, and if you listen to the superintendent when he was here, he said we're going to have approximately 80 students. Now, Mark Gradison said he anticipates around 55, because it's designed for seniors like me to move in here where we don't have to mow grass, don't have to shovel snow. If we want to be a snowbird and go to Florida in the winter, our house is watched after. But if you even take the 80 that the superintendent said, that's less impact on our schools than any other subdivision that's come in. Also, I talked to Mr. Biddle, the president of the school board, and I asked him, whose fault is it that we're overcrowded? Is it the Kerr family? He said, no. I said,
Of course not.
is it the Mark Gradison? He said, no. I said, whose fault do you think it is? He said, it's our fault, the school board. He said, because when we wanted to build the new schools, the state said that their anticipated growth rate warranted $85 million for the new schools they built. And they were told that if they needed more money than that, they'd have to increase their levy. And they decided not to do that. They built the schools knowing that they were going to be overcrowded when they were complete. About the cookie cutter, and also Section 8, I've heard. I don't think you have Section 8 when you have a $350,000 to $700,000 project coming in. Cookie cutter, I talked to Mark Gaddison, I said, you all remember this, I told him in the planning commission and this city council that if there's any vinyl siding, I vote no. There is no vinyl siding on any of the properties coming in. And he also told me to avoid the cookie cutter look, that if you build a house here, the house on the left and the house on the right cannot be the same house. And the one across the street can't either. So that's what swayed my vote to yay. And I talked to the the treasurer, or finance director, and I asked her, what do you anticipate that we're gonna receive off of this? And what do we right now get off the Kerr Farm for the city? I was shocked when she told me how much we got from the Kerr Farm. $50 a year. I said, what do you anticipate us getting off of this plan that's coming in? She said, somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 a year. Those answers to those questions changed me from a no to a yes, and I stand by it wholeheartedly. Now, I've been said on Facebook that we'll vote your rear end out of office. You want to do that? That's fine. I'm here to work for the city of Harrison. I'm not here to collect $732 a month. I could care less about that money. I'm only here to do what I think is best for the city of Harrison, and I think my wife and I have shown that over the years that she's been on council and I have, because with the help of our Legion, we have donated to organizations in the city of Harrison over $300,000. And that's the reason I voted yes, because of how good we do. That's over a number of years, not just last year, Gene.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this part up.
Thank you.
I do want to make one clarifying comment. I had not seen the petition. Part of the reason for that is I abstained from all votes due to a potential conflict of interest, so I chose not to seek that out. I thought my comment might have been a little inappropriate for not seeing the comment, or not seeing the petition, but I do want to clarify that for everybody. I know that I probably could have asked for it, but
So my only closing thought as you think about future developments, I would just say, just because we can build it, doesn't mean that we should. And I think you just need to think about the time, the place, and can we do better?
So,
For what
just
it's
to
worth.
address that comment just a little bit, so we do have the comprehensive plan review process. We're actually going to RFQ, end of this month, I think. RFQ at the end of this month, to go ahead and start getting that process. That's basically request for qualifications, to find a company that can help guide us through that process. We chose the RFQ because we want somebody that fully understands our community and what spot that we're in right now. And then after that process is completed, I do want to immediately move it into the zoning review. That way we can implement some of the points in the comprehensive plan into our zoning to try to address those things. We also started this evening, a discussion around infrastructure improvement plan, because I've heard all the comments. I haven't once gotten on Facebook, have no interest in getting on Facebook. That's not who I am normally, and it's not gonna change now, but to address infrastructure concerns throughout the city. Obviously, our main arteries haven't been addressed in a long time, other than patching up roadways. But it will be taking a look at Carolina Trace, New Haven Road, all the way out to the Dry Fork Road, the intersection of Edgewood and Short and that chaos, Campbell Road, West Road. We're already in talks about Dry Fork, including the overpass, to alleviate that real pain that everyone feels as they're coming home from work or going to work. Because I want you all to see the potential cost impact to the city if we address all these. And it's gonna take time. It is. It's gonna take time to be able to address them. But that was one of the things that I talked about all year long last year. And I started talking about it in January, got sidetracked by a couple of things. But, you know, it is in the works to develop the plan, get a potential budget for it, to display to the community, this is what we want to do. We hear you. We do. We hear you. We hear it. Believe me, when I drive down New Haven Road, I feel every pain that you all feel. Especially when I'm heading out to those eastern communities, or our fire department is trying to get to the eastern communities, or our police force is trying to get to the eastern communities. We need to address it just as much for you, but we also need to address it for our safety services to make sure that we continue to provide the excellent service that that you all have come to know in our community. So those are our goals. And we can continue to have conversations. I can't make promises, but we can continue to have conversations around all of our developments. One of my first conversations to our building and zoning department on day 2 was, if any developer comes here, let them know it's going to be a pain. Because we hear you. We have to let them present the plan. That's not the way governments work. We can't just say, no, we don't want you. If the land is available and a builder wants to come here, go ahead, submit the plan. But understand, we've had a lot of community feedback, and there's a lot of discomfort right now. So understand that it is going to be uncomfortable if you choose to go through this process. So, but I did just want to make those couple comments. I believe Jan Herlinger, you want to come on up? Ms. Herlinger?
Okay. Well, I wanted to say the best thing that happened last week, or the 16th, was that the Kerrs sold the property, because I did feel bad for the Kerrs. So I'm glad that that happened for them. And on the fountain that they were talking about earlier, I do have a comment about that. Because Washington Park has those same fountains downtown, as does Lawrenceburg, and I've been to both of those places. Kids are out there, they're little, they're playing, sometimes they're unattended, there's no adult, and the street is right there. So I would definitely check that out for the safety of the children too. So just when that was being talked about, that's something that went through my mind. Okay, I have a few topics that I've seen, because I've been coming here for 2 years. A lot of them really aren't to do with Gradison, but things that I think maybe I'm going to mention to City Council that maybe might make things better. When there's a new business that comes in, particularly a first-time business owner starting, I would suggest asking for a business plan, because I saw some people come up who wanted to bring businesses in, and I'm thinking, oh my God, that is never going to work. And I just feel like if they had a business plan showing what what their backup plan is if it doesn't work, how are they going to make ends meet? Because then you'd have less people moving in and out of downtown businesses and wear and tear on the buildings, et cetera. Just a suggestion. Let's see. I saw this happen 2 times. I'm going to give you 2 examples where things were brought up and it was overlooked. One of them was with Frat Board. When they were coming in, Ryan came up with the idea of the garbage. How are we going to handle the garbage? And they said, well, we're thinking we're going to have 6 to 8 garbage cans. And, well, what's your backup plan if that doesn't work? Because we can't get a dumpster in there, And they said, we don't know. I personally think at that time you should say, you know what? You go home and figure that out, and you come back when you have an answer. And don't let it just slide until they have an answer, because why deal with the problem later? We need all these things answered. When Gradison was here, Ray Akra brought up the idea of the HOAs, and their response was, I'll have to research that. Stop, you go home, you do your research, and then you come back. Because I don't think it's fair that you guys can make these decisions without having all of the information. It's not professional, it's not fair. And in all honesty, your boss, and I was always brought up that in my job, my boss is who I need to make sure my boss is happy, make sure I'm hitting those marks at my job. Your boss is the community. They're paying your paycheck. You need to make sure, and I know you're not going to get it right all the time, but the more you can do and check those little boxes so that disasters don't happen, just the better. Again, these are just suggestions. I don't live in the city of Harrison. I don't vote in Harrison. You can tell me go home and pound salt. I don't care, whatever. These are just suggestions. What product is going to be up on the hill where the Sally Kerr's house is currently? Which of the products is going to be there? Does anybody know that?
Yeah, there's the townhomes, villas, and then what's up on the hill?
To the
Right
north
where
of them,
Sally's house is
It's the
right
middle
now.
range.
What's going to be there?
Well, the house stays there.
The house is staying there.
Yeah, it's
On that
single
ridge, on that
family,
ridge.
$500,000 plus homes.
to the
going up
immediate
the ridge.
far north of the property.
Right along that ridge,
This
like
is-
right on that hillside.
This is kind of the answer I'm giving you. To the immediate far north, there are going to be 1 acre tracts. There's going to be 11 of those.
That's what I thought.
Between them and the Kerrs, if I'm not mistaken, are half-acre tracts that are going to be the $400,000 to $600,000 houses.
Okay. Well, I may be wrong, but I sat in a lot of meetings. I think I've got it. They're going to have the backs facing Carolina Trace. That's how I understood.
That's correct, I believe.
That
that's
is
Okay.
correct.
I would suggest that as this process is coming along, those houses are going to have a view of that golf course, and it's going to be amazing. Have them put the windows on the other side, great big windows, so when you're in your house, you can look at that view. And then they can upcharge for that. Still in a house with a view. Why come on. Business 101, that's the easy one. I would highly suggest, and it would look better from the road. I need a job, right? Yeah, I need a job. Let's see. Future businesses. When you see on social media, and again, you see all kinds of crazy stuff on that social media, but you do see where people will talk for certain that they want a certain business to come to Harrison. And I think sometimes we wait until a business comes and then we decide if we want them to come or not. Why not say, you know what, let's just stop and look at the situation. What don't we have? We don't have anything for like shopping, and I'm talking about like sheets, everyday things, towels. Aside from Kroger, we don't have anything really like that. And I was thinking maybe a Target. Why aren't we calling up Target? Hey, Target, we're Harrison, Ohio. We would love you to come here. Why aren't we going and getting them? Why are we waiting until they
I
come
can speak
here?
to that right now.
Yeah,
So,
tell me.
I have a wife at home that would die for a Home Goods. Or TJ Maxx or
And
something
have you
of the
called
sort.
them?
I've heard all of these, but no, just in regards to that, that's another one of the topic of discussions that I had with individuals as I was out and about, and actually have talked to Matt about on numerous occasions as well as numerous others. I do business development by day, and then I do business development by night, and then I wake up and I do it all over again. The goal is to be much more proactive. There we go.
Yes.
Much more proactive
Yes.
in trying to find the services. I hear everybody. Steakhouse, Chick-fil-A, TJ Maxx, Home Goods. I can go on with the list that my wife wants. So we're just going to stop at those two things, or Target or something along those lines. Obviously, a lot of statistics go into the evaluation for a business such as that to be able to come here. Part of the problem that Harrison has run into in the past is that state line that's just down the street here, in statistics stopping there. Now, there is information available.
Wait a minute, wait. Say that again.
The state line.
What about the state line?
Information stops at the state line. Okay. That has been a lot of the statistics for individuals in Bright haven't been taken into account in previous discussions. The goal is to try to do a different approach.
I'll tell you.
To
Can I interject a moment?
bring that information in and make it available to businesses
Okay.
that are looking to come here. Because I don't want UDF, forgive me, another UDF store. You know, we have three of them. What do we need another one for? So, I hear everybody on auto parts stores and gas stations and everything. I hear
Hair salons.
you know, yeah, you know, exactly. So, the goal is to be more proactive, find the businesses that we want that are a convenience feature to our community.
Right.
And also, not only those type of businesses, but the large commercial businesses to come into our community to not only provide an income tax base, but to provide jobs to our community members. If we're gonna continue to grow at the pace that we are, making it a community that not only that you live in, but work in, is a goal. And it's a goal of everybody up here on council. We just have to have the long-term vision and focus on that long-term vision, to be patient and draw in those businesses and not be afraid to say no every once in a while. It's not only on the commercial side, but to find developers that do build those quality developments. You know, go find the developer that is willing to partner with the city and the landowner to build a community that has that long-term vision in mind, to build it visually appealing. Are we gonna be able to win that every time? No. But the goal is to try it. You know, if we don't focus on that, we're never gonna accomplish it.
On the water bill, I know you've had surveys there before, but you could maybe put a survey in the water bill and kind of determine what people want. That might be one thing. And I kind of think that Target's a big enough company that if you said, hey, we need a developer, they'll say, hey, we've got a few of those lined up for you. You know,
Yes.
I believe that in my gut. So, but anyway, that again, all suggestions, but things to think about, because Harrison is
Absolutely.
growing fast, and
Yes.
you know,
appreciate it.
make it.
Thank you very
make it
much,
good.
Ms. Erling.
So, all right.
Appreciate
You have a great evening. I do want to thank everybody for speaking tonight. I thought it was really good conversation and everything. We're going to go ahead and move into the business session. First item is vote on an ordinance amending the amounts appropriated to various funds of the city of Harrison.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I've got a couple comments on this, just so everybody's aware. On these appropriations, they're in totaling about 44,000. 19,000 of the appropriations were actually for use of grants that the city, various grants that the city has received. 20,000 is for a police vehicle, that is being paid for, out of some law enforcement funds that we currently have, so there's no additional, expenditure on this. The only item that we have is that they're asking for about $5,000 for extra support for senior services, for the temporary, contractor they have in there for right now.
Any questions? Roll call.
What is this?
Mr. Abrams?
The 5,000?
Yay.
Mr. Samuels?
Hold on one second. I'm sorry.
The 5,000 is for, temporary assistance or temporary help.
So,
I call it a contractor, but it's a temp in there because, the director is out on leave, so they have brought somebody in to help with the senior center services.
All right, great.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Probably didn't explain that as well as I should have, so I apologize.
Understood. Thank you.
Mr. Abrams?
Yay.
Mr. Samuels?
Yay.
Mr. Akra?
Yay.
Mr. Maines?
Yay.
Mrs. Wilson?
Yay.
Mr. Wilson?
Yeah.
okay, every year, we have been very fortunate to not all have to go from a council seat, go through public records training. The clerk has graciously offered to go through the public records training and manage that process for us. So
Wilson moves to approve.
Second.
Say, what am I getting into?
I'll go ahead and I'll read this real quick for you all. Vote to designate Sherry Myers, clerk of council, to attend public records training on council's behalf.
Hopefully she knew about that.
Yes.
So you're going willingly?
Is there a motion?
I made the motion, Samuel second.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Samuels?
Yay.
Mr. Akra?
Yay.
Mr. Maines?
Yay.
Mrs. Wilson?
Yay, and thank you.
Mr. Wilson?
Yay.
Mr. Abrams?
Yay.
Okay, we do need to have a discussion around the March 19th, 2024 council meeting. There will be a primary election on that day. We do have legislation in place to move council meetings from the Tuesday council day to the day following, which would be on a Wednesday.
Mr. Mayor, is it a big problem since the polls close at 7:30 and our meeting don't start till 7:30? Why should we move it? I mean, no one here works the polls.
The problem is we have an ordinance that requires that. We could remove the ordinance.
We have an ordinance that
We have an
requires us
ordinance
to
that
move it?
requires that was voted on by council prior to my joining council that states when we have an election.
This is a,
That the council meeting gets moved to the Wednesday after elections. It's automatic. I'm not even sure that this is something that can be discussed.
Mr. Dieters, is the ordinance state that we automatically move it?
Does indicate that if there's an election day that we move it to the Wednesday.
Okay.
Day after.
Then we move it to the,
I don't
to the
even
Wednesday.
think-
Did you say it does state that?
Yeah, I don't really think you need to do anything. I think it's already done.
Okay.
Other
So
than
we
probably
do
let
go
people
ahead
know,
and
right.
proceed with moving the council
Big
meeting.
deal.
And, you know, Mr. Wilson, if you don't like the ordinance, we can certainly discuss striking the ordinance from the.
Yes.
I didn't agree.
Yeah, so if there is a disagreement with the ordinance that's in place, then what we would do is reverse the ordinance.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we'll go ahead and proceed with moving our March 19th, 2024 council meeting to March 20th, 2024. The committee meetings and everything will be moved to that same day, and council will be at 7:30 that evening. We'll go ahead and move into reports. I'll go ahead and start. First, I do want to congratulate Katie on being sworn in and welcome her to the fire department. I had the opportunity to interview her. That was one of my first rounds of interviews. It was an absolute pleasure to see such a strong young lady be welcomed to the full-time ranks. She was part of our part-time ranks, but to be able to move up to the full-time ranks and bring her skill, knowledge, understanding, and obviously her ability to communicate, I think will be of great value to our fire department. We did start, Jim Leslie, our utility director, will be retiring in July. We did go ahead and we did start interviews to fill that position. We did have a first round of interviews. I'm actually going to build a second round of interviews for these individuals. And a new group of 3 will be invited to sit down and have a conversation with the individuals that we have. But Sarah is out on leave for a couple weeks, so it may be a bit before those invites come out. Thursday, January 25th, I did have the opportunity to go to the Greater Harrison Chamber of Commerce annual celebration. I want to congratulate the Legion on their nonprofit award. Obviously, their involvement in the community and their support for the Scouts and Harrison Youth Football and cheerleading and just about every other organization that they've touched over the years has been incredible. And they were recognized for that and very much deserved. But the Harrison Chamber did an absolutely incredible job with their annual celebration. I encourage any business, actually I encourage absolutely anybody, if you're not involved with the chamber, to search them out online. And they do have individual memberships, but that's another great way to bring up your concern with local businesses in the community, and they can work to help you address some of those concerns. On January 26th, I had the opportunity to attend the OKI luncheon. I had mentioned briefly during the open guests and visitors that we are working on an infrastructure improvement plan. That was my first OKI luncheon, to go ahead and start poking everybody and telling them I want your money, and to try to start bringing that stuff back to the community. So I was able to attend that luncheon with Jim Leslie and Jennifer Vatter, our engineer, and start making some contacts. Doug Abrams will be attending a lot of those luncheons. I'll probably still try to go because I want to keep staying in front of all those individuals so they do know what we're trying to accomplish here in the community. All good commercial development comes with proper infrastructure to be able to support that. And a lot of proceeds go to communities that have that forward-thinking approach to everything that they do. So I want to be out there talking about it. I want Doug to be out there talking about, Councilman Abrams talking about it. So we can bring as much of our tax dollars back into this community as possible, because that's how we get roads paved. On January 29th, I had my Hamilton County Emergency Management Executive Board meeting. The Emergency Management Organization continues to do an incredible job. I encourage each of you to, especially Boy Scouts, reach out to or search the EMA online. There's a lot of great resources available, especially as we go into the spring where we have tornadoes and hail and heavy rains and everything. I encourage each of you to go onto the EMA website. They have a lot of great stuff going on as they begin the process of moving locations from downtown Cincinnati out to the Tri-County area. But they continue to provide great service to all community members all the way across Hamilton County. That's all I have. Mr. Dieters, do you have anything to report?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I have no report this evening.
Wonderful. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I go backwards real quick? Chief Persong sitting there looking at me, and I remembered. Just one more item real quick. On February 14th, the process that has been worked on for a while now is finally going to receive its dedication and blessing. Safe Haven Baby Box has been installed at the Harrison Fire Station 56 down on Harrison Avenue downtown. Unfortunately, in this day and age, we do have to provide a resource such as this, but I think it's a very important resource to have available in our community. This provides an outlet for individuals that feel desperate to drop off a baby, to fall into the care of our fire department and then Hamilton County Children's Services. But this is an outlet for those individuals that are in a desperate state. And I hope that it's never used. But if it saves one baby, it's well worth it. This was at no cost to the city of Harrison. Absolutely everything was donated. The money was raised through Reach Out Pregnancy Center. And you know, they continue to provide great things to our community, and they were able to raise the money for this, and then the alarms and everything were donated to the city. All we had to do was provide a spot for it. So that dedication will happen on February 14th at 5 p.m. at the Harrison Fire Department on 200 Harrison Avenue. That's all I have. Mr. Wilson.
I had some, I think you ran me out of time. I want to congratulate our new fire lady also. It's great to see her come on board full-time. I want to thank the Boy Scouts for coming to a very exciting council meeting. It wasn't the 30 seconds you might have thought it was going to be, but I think they learned a little bit, and the Legion's glad to give you a little money to help do the things, good things that you do. Also, I don't have the name in front of me. I apologize, but I want to congratulate the young lady at the high school who set the all-time scoring record as a junior, boys or girls, the other night. And I think that's one hell of an achievement. That's all I have, sir.
Absolutely. Councilman Abrams.
Just one thing, Mayor, and you touched on it. We met earlier and talked about the infrastructure improvement plan.
Yes.
And we're going in the right direction, and you already said it, so I've said it twice now.
Very good.
That's all I got.
Councilman Samuels.
I'm gonna apologize in advance, because this is probably gonna be a lengthy update, and, we've already run, quite a bit of time, so I'll make it as quick as possible. So Finance Committee did meet on January 24th. As always, we did a quick review of the revenues and expenses. Really, they kind of fell in line where they thought. We review it monthly, so they were fairly consistent. Our cash balance continues to be solid with about $22 million currently invested. Couple of noteworthy items that I want to talk about for 2023. In the general fund, the revenues, the income tax came in at about 5.8 million, which is slightly above budget. I think we budgeted 5.8 million. I think it came in 5.850,000. So we were right on point with our estimate for that. One thing I do want to note in terms of, and I do announce this typically every month about the money that we have invested. You know, with this investment, obviously this is not all money that's in the general fund. You know, it is coming from other funds that we're required to keep certain balances, but we do have the ability to invest it. In 2023, those investments, with the way the interest rates were, they actually earned the city $1.1 million for the year. So I just want to point that out. And that was something that Kim drove, I think it was last year in 2022. So big kudos to Kim for that. That was a huge win for the city. One of the things that we had been watching throughout the year was the water operating fund. You know, we did monitor it closely throughout the year. We kind of watched the expenses that were coming through, and the fund did end up positive by $152,000. We were happy it was positive. We'll continue to monitor it for 2024 and see where we are with that fund. So 2023 audit process has begun. Clark Schaefer Hackett has been engaged to complete the gap conversion. Some of the miscellaneous items that we talked about, obviously we talked about the budget amendment that was passed earlier this evening. One item, we're waiting on the TID grant reimbursement for the Dry Fork Ridge project. That was about $230,000. We'd been waiting on it for a while. Kim had made a few calls on it, and actually she notified me today that we did receive the money. So Recreation Area Improvements Grant has been applied. It was about 1.85 million. It seems as of right now we've been granted 650,000, but I think additional monies have been requested, and we're waiting on a response from the state. Another item we talked about was a recreational facilities tax. We discussed the original discussion was around the increasing the bedroom tax to provide additional funding for infrastructure upgrades. We decided not to move forward with the bedroom tax increase, but we are exploring other options that may increase building or zoning permit fees. So Kim did submit the certificate of estimated resource and appropriations to Hamilton County. We are waiting on about a $74,000 refund from one of our vendors, Badger Meter. Hopefully that'll come in soon. And Rita was informed regarding the tax credit resolution that we passed, so they should be aware of the tax credit reduction that's coming through. One thing that I don't normally talk about on a monthly basis is the ARPA funds that we received. We received in total about 1.2 million. Up to this point, we've spent about 1.1 million with about $120,000 still available. I think at this point, it's just going to stay in a holding pattern and see if we need that money for the Dry Fork overpass. One thing I do want to talk about that wasn't really part of Finance Committee, but we, the Finance Committee ourselves, are actually the union, part of the union negotiating committee with the 3 unions within the city. So we have the police union, the fire, and the steelworkers union. The police contract is in place through 2025. So there will be no negotiations going on. So we are negotiating the fire and the steelworkers contract this year. With the fire, we are currently negotiating. However, we are moving on to mediation as we are unable to come to an agreement as of last week. And there has been no negotiating with the steelworkers union up until this point. All right, on the economic development. So we did have our first economic development meeting. Some of the more administrative things that we talked about. Planning Commission coming up has a couple items coming before Planning Commission, I believe next week, Jerry? It's next Tuesday. There was a CRA application that was submitted. We did review the numbers on that. And I think that will be coming before council at the next council meeting. We did talk about the comprehensive plan, which I think you touched on a little bit. They're looking for the RFQs. within the Building and Zoning Department, they are looking for a software upgrade. One of the software packages they're looking at is a cloud permit system where all the submissions, the permit submissions, process and plan reviews will be all digital, where they can be submitted online, they can be monitored online, and just moving away from the paper process. And Matt is also working on a BRE, or business expansion retention visits, so just getting out, touching base with a lot of the bigger businesses within the city. We also did have a conversation regarding the zoning and permit fees, so there's a little bit more research going on in economic development and zoning. We'll expect an update at our next economic development meeting. As for some of the exciting things that are going on around the city, Hearth Brewery has begun remodeling work on their 1195 Stone Drive project. It's on schedule for a mid-May opening. Watch for new traffic patterns that we put in place. They are adding an outdoor seating and other outdoor features. Valley House, they're finishing their remodeling and still anticipating a March opening, hopefully for March Madness. As a lot of you are aware, Fretboard Brewery has begun transitioning the former Heist building on Harrison Avenue. Plans call for a Fretboard to open probably in late May, early June timeframe. JTM has begun the process to add additional phase to their current project. This project will add an additional production line. The phase was part of the original plan, but is beginning construction and well ahead of the proposed timeline. And also the Greater Harrison Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring a job fair on March 14th at the Harrison High School Activity Center. Childcare and rides are available. Please check the Greater Harrison Chamber of Commerce website for more details. Mayor, that's all I have.
Glad there's no questions around. I will say, just real quick, in regards to the ARPA funds, you know, we did receive $1.1 million, and we've really been able, it had to be specifically spent. We reported on this when we first received the funds, and it had a very narrow window of how the money was to be utilized at that time, and we've been able to upgrade a couple systems to better the downtown district area with new speakers and everything, wiring to make sure that works properly, and upgrades to the music system, as well as some of the TVs and everything in here. Some of the much needed stuff that usually got neglected because we didn't want to spend the money on it. It really fell into that area and allowed us the opportunity to upgrade those systems to come, the way I look at it, a much more professional and business-friendly environment. And just in regards to the system that Building and Zoning is upgrading, it'll allow us not only the opportunity to receive our permits and process those transactions in a more friendly manner, not only for residents but businesses, to submit plans, but it will also provide better tracking and once again provide a much more professional and business-friendly environment. I think those things often get overlooked, but it's an important part as the community continues to grow. So I just wanted to make a note on those couple things. So, Mr. Aker.
Yes, I have a report. Even with our extended public hearings, we haven't had to actually hold any meetings yet, but it's, the longer I lean on this, the more it's become aware to me that this city is not in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. I've talked to our fire chief and our police chief, and they've both assured me that our river park is not compliant at all, anywhere, any part of it. Not the parking lot, not the paths, and since part of the road is part of the path, not the road. And it just seems a shame to me that we have a park that's basically built to come look at, and if you're handicapped, you can't. That's one of the things we will be addressing with Building and Lands this year. I don't know if it's even time to make a motion, but I would like a consent of council to not spend money, but to seek what it would cost to actually pave these areas to enlarge the parking, because another problem we're running into is so many people are parking down there that it's making it impossible for fire service to get back to the houses on the back if they need to make a run. And we've got some real issues with our river park. It's become our most visited park. According to Green Acres, they have 20,000 people roll down the river just on the 4th of July weekend. So chances are we got 100,000 people a year rolling by our park, and our fire department is charged with their safety. And we don't have a boat ramp. We got a boat, we just don't have a ramp. So when someone's in trouble on the river, they have to drive across the bridge all the way down to E-Town, get on the river, and come all the way up, and if they're hopefully closer to that end, they're good. They could be a 30-minute drive up the river. And I think when you're talking liability issues, because people are launching their kayaks from our park anyway, it seems to me the greater liability is knowing there's a problem and doing nothing to fix it. And that's where we are now. And I would like to get a general, we don't mind if you look into it, because it's something I think we need to spend some money on.
Well, I definitely would go ahead and begin the discussions in building lands to not only identify the key areas around town that need to potentially be addressed in regards to handicap compliance. And then we can then take the next step of determining a potential cost associated with the improvements needed to meet those needs. In regards to the boat ramp, I think there's going to have to be some more addressed to make sure that we don't add to the problem that's already there with bank erosion. I still think it's something that can be identified, a potential location can be identified. We just have to be very smart and strategic about what we do, how we do it, and make sure that it doesn't add to any problems that may already exist down there. So I would encourage you to begin identifying, and then we can move to the next steps.
And I know another issue is the parking. Our parking lot needs to be 3 or 4 times bigger.
Yes.
And that's pretty much a given, and that shouldn't even be a costly thing. But we will be probably reviewing every piece of land the city owns for handicap accessibility. I know I had a hell of a time getting in there tonight because my hip was killing me. I'll get that fixed one day, and hopefully that'll go away. But somebody and there's a lot of people in worse shape than I am, it's a long way from the parking lot to the front door.
Well,
And
I think it's an area that we need to address across the city. Yeah, when I was out talking to people, you know, I was speaking to an individual that is wheelchair bound, and he has problems getting around the community. So it's something that we definitely need to talk about and make sure that we do keep all community members in mind, not just those that can walk around. So.
Other than that, I would like to thank those who came up and spoke tonight. I will talk to anyone anytime about Harrison. As long as you don't mind, we may disagree sometimes. I will always listen to you. I'll do my research, and I'll try to make the best decision I can. So thank you for coming in tonight. I remember my first time up here, a factory opened up a system behind me that was blaring out 95 decibels when they ran, which is louder than a Who concert, 24 hours a day. And coming up and telling them this problem, people looked at me like it wasn't easy. That's all I have to say about that. The other thing I got to bring up is I'm going to call it commode gate for better things. And during that, I had mentioned Harrison's volunteer rate during the Civil War. It was staggering, a large number of people. We had 2,300 people in town. probably 1,200 of them were women. Of the remaining 1,000, probably half were children and men. And I was in the downtown Harrison building alone. I looked up and my cousin Rick and Debbie Rothfuss were coming out of the Historical Society. And they had this paper in their hand. And they parked in the building alone. I went over and walked in, and I said, "What are you reading?" And this thing the Historical Society had called the Roll of Honor, Harrison in the Civil War. Now, of those remaining people, there weren't many left, Harrison had 274 people volunteer for the Civil War. It says here that they know there were more, but they left so fast, they didn't, then this is all where they knew exactly what regiment they were in, that they didn't get their information down. So I always think this is probably like St. Crispin's Day, where they felt their manhood's cheap because they bared not the wounds of the Revolutionary War. And as soon as this broke out, they ran off and joined. And my hopes is, and I don't know, I guess Building and Lands will have to be the committee, I would like some type of memorial honoring all of these people. And I mean, there's just a staggering list of people here, of the names and divisions where they served, where we can get that permanently memorialized for their service. Oddly enough, the one place I was looking was the one place they wanted to push a splash park. I had talked to our state representatives, Cindy Abrams, and there are organizations, as long as it's history related, and that is a designated historical trail, that they can help with the funding on that. But I think that's something that should be permanently and part of our history, because it's an important part. And that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Ray. Sorry, Councilman Aker. Mr. Maines.
Very brief report, Mr. Mayor. The Tech and Social Media Committee met this evening. We discussed 2024 computer upgrades, records disposal, talked about the cloud permit, which you talked about the permitting process becoming a bit more automated, GIS information, the city website, and also the audio-visual project has moved on to the North Conference Room, and that's beginning and going to last 3 or 4 days or 2 weeks. We're not sure, but is that the last phase of the audio-visual project? Yes, and that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to say that the Recreation Committee is very busy planning a very memorable 2024. We have a lot of events that we're going to be having. We're currently getting our list together for our summer concerts. Most are going to be on Tuesdays. One's going to be on Saturday, and the one on Saturday is going to be held downtown. We're trying to come up with different events for this year for our community, and hopefully next month I'll have more to report on that. I did also very much enjoy going to the Harrison Chamber of Commerce event at the Harrison VFW. They did a wonderful job, and I thought it was a wonderful night with a lot of great businesses, individuals, organizations that were recognized for their years of service to our community. In 2 months, I'll be 73 years old. When I was 18 years old, I left home and I joined the military. I spent 2 years in the military. I met and married my husband, and we moved to Harrison. So I'm not a Harrisonite, but I've lived in Harrison for a long, long time. When I was 25 years old, I got my real estate license. I had my real estate license for 10 years. So at age 35, I surrendered my insurance license, and I became an insurance broker. I had that till I was 62 years old, and decided I didn't want to do that anymore, and I hung up that shingle. So I haven't been licensed in real estate or insurance for a very long time. My whole point of the matter is this. If you're going to say things about people, say the truth. No one said you did. I'm not looking at all of you. If you're going to say things about people, say the truth. If you don't know what the truth is, then be quiet until you find out the truth. I don't like people saying that on Facebook that I'm a real estate agent and that I had an investment in whether this development got approved or not. I didn't like someone getting on a radio station and saying that Ray Acra, his family, he voted for it because his family owned a landscaping business and that business was going to profit from that community going out there. Hey, listen, people, I learned a long time ago what you think of me is none of my business. You can think of me whatever you want, but know this for a fact. I've lived in this community for a long, long time. I care deeply about it, or I wouldn't be sitting up here. If you want to run for office, I would say God bless you. Run for office. I ran for re-election and I had to think about it for a long time before I did it. But I did it because I wanted to continue to serve my community. My term will be up. I just got re-elected, so my term will be up in 4 years. I can guarantee you I will not be running it again. Not because I don't care and not because I can't handle criticism, but it's because I want to give someone else an opportunity to run for office, to be up here, to attend all of our meetings that we attend. This is not the only meeting that we attend. We're all on committees. We all have to meet several times a week sometimes. You know, sometimes I'd rather just sit home with my feet up in the recliner watching TV, but I don't do that. I come here and I respect everyone who came here tonight and told us what they thought, because you know what? Serving as a United States veteran, that's what we do for people can give their different opinions, where we can all look at things differently, but that we, at the end of the day, that we all respect each other, because we're all not going to see everything how everyone else sees it. But rest assured that the people that's sitting up here at this table are deeply committed not only to this city, but the people who live in the township, the people who live in Indiana. We care, or we wouldn't be up here. That's all I got to say, Mayor. Thank you.
Wilson J.W. moves to adjourn.
No.
No, I believe we're going to retire to executive session.
We got an executive session.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we go to our executive session.
I guess we don't get to adjourn. So we will retire to executive session. Have a good evening.